He's a very informal and a warm and a very loving personality, as you will see. And it's my very great pleasure to introduce Rabbi Joseph H. Gelberman.
The word for greeting is shalom. Shalom. What's beautiful about that word, if you change the vowels, it sounds shalem, perfection. In other words, if you really want shalom, peace, perfect yourself, and you will be at peace. Some of my colleagues, when I told them I'm coming here today, wanted to know, what does a nice Jewish boy do in a place like this? Well, of course, I'm here, I believe, for two basic reasons. One, how can anyone ever say no to this beautiful Swami who wrote me and invited me to come here? And I love this place. I'm only here one day, and this morning after breakfast I inquired how to become a member of the monastery. So peaceful, so loving, so helpful. And the other reason is I want to pay special homage to Swami Vivekananda, who 101 years ago came to these shores. I only read it a few months ago, but in a way, that was the inspiration I received 40 years ago when I organized the new seminary. Listen to the quotation. He said, "The seed is put in the ground, and the earth and the air and the water are placed around it. Does the seed become the earth or the air or the water? No. It becomes a plant. It develops after the law of its own growth, assimilates the air, the earth, and the water, converts them into plant substance, and grows into a plant. Similar is the case with religion. The Christian or the Jew is not to become a Hindu or a Buddhist, nor a Hindu or a Buddhist to become a Christian or a Jew. But each must assimilate the spirit of the others, and yet preserve his individuality and grow according to his own law of growth." Isn't that beautiful? 101 years ago, which I believe inspired me to organize the new seminary, the Interfaith School for Ministers. In addition to the introduction, I would like to add, to explain to you what kind of a Jew I am and what kind of a rabbi I am. You know, there are many kinds. The Orthodox, Conservative, Reform, Reconstructionist. And if we are to, every person, by definition, or Judaism is often described in the Bible as a tree of life. This is a tree, if you wish, the kind that may grow in Brooklyn. So this is the tree of life. And Orthodoxy came and defined Judaism by putting a circle around it and saying, this is it. If you are in the circle, you are Jewish. If not, too bad. And about 150 years ago, some Jews in Germany, very modern, semi-assimilated Jews, said, we want to be Jewish, but not Orthodox. And they left the circle going this way to become what you call Reform Jews. history tells us they went too far. Many of them became Christians. A good example will be the Felix Mendelssohn, remember the great musician? His grandfather was Rabbi Moses Mendelssohn, a great Orthodox rabbi. So about 100 years ago, some Jews right here in America said, let's return to the circle and conserve as much as we can of Judaism. I never left the circle, therefore I didn't have to come back. But I did for the last 35, 40 years. I went this way, going down to the roots of my Jewishness, and examined the tradition, and asked the tradition only one question. If I will do it, what will it do it for me? Will this ceremony, tradition, enhance my life? Will I become a better son, a better brother, a better husband, a better person, a better neighbor? Then indeed I'll do it. If not, I'll just put it aside. I'll pick it up in my next life. So that's what I am. I'm going back, and every time I'm involved with a tradition, I just ask that question. What I would like to do today is speak about 8 parts of the Kabbalah, briefly, of course. Otherwise, we'll stay here not 3 days, but 3 months. And they are simply, the 8 parts is something about the history of the Kabbalah, definitions, the basic teachings of the Kabbalah, the significance of God's mystical name called Yahweh or Yod-Heh, Vav-Heh, the importance of the 22 Hebrew letters in the Bible, the tree of life, the 8 Chaim, the basic principles of Kabbalah, and then I'll finish with a recurring dream and a vision that I would like to share with you. The most important part in getting ready to study the Kabbalah is getting ready. And to be ready, we must do it in 3 parts, because we're made up of 3 dimensions. We have a body, we have a mind, some of us even use it, and then we have a neshama, a soul. The mystic or the chassid prepares himself the following way. He goes into a mikvah. A mikvah is a name for a spiritual bath where he immerses himself in order to be born anew. And then he would light 2 candles. The one candle symbolizes what we call in the Hebrew the Yetzer HaTov, the good inclination which is in each one of us, and the other candle symbolizes the Yetzer Hara, the opposite, the negative inclination. And then he puts the 2 candles together to suggest, unlike the old teaching which says to destroy the devil in you, he says, no, I will add it to the light. I will utilize the power of the devil. And the 2 now become the one light, a part of the eternal light. And with this act, he prepared the mind, opened up his mind, ridding himself of all kinds of prejudices, negativism, and hatred. He is now clean. And then to get ready for the soul, he sings a melody. The melody is called I Am Ready. And again, we repeat several times the word I'm ready, because to be ready means on these three levels. I wonder if I can ask you to join me. You sing so beautifully the mantras. So it's very simple. I'll chant the phrase and I will ask you to chant with me. Is that a deal? Okay. I am ready, I am ready, I am ready. I am ready, I am ready, I am ready. I am ready, I am ready, I am ready. I am ready, I am ready, I am ready. I am ready, I am ready, I am ready. I am ready, I am ready, I am ready. I am ready, I am ready for life. I am ready, I am ready for life. To do the good and the beautiful. To do the good and the beautiful. I am ready, I am ready, I am ready. I am ready, I am ready, I am ready. To do the good and the beautiful. To do the good and the beautiful. I am ready, I am ready, I am ready. I am ready, I am ready, I am ready. Now take your holy hands now, don't be shy about it. Be a chassid now for half an hour. La 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 ra ri ra ra ri ra ram la 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 ra ri ra ra ri ra ri ra la 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 la. Now take these two fingers. La 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 la. I am ready, I am ready for love. And so it is. I swear that you're Jewish. So let's begin with a brief history of Kabbalah. This is not going to be a book review. If you're really interested, there are hundreds of books have been written. I have a book here in the library too. There are two basic opinions about the history. The traditional one that says that the Zohar was written in a cave around the 1st century by a rabbi called Shimon Bar Yochai and his son Rabbi Eliezer, During the Roman occupation of the Holy Land, where learning was forbidden, so they went underground to study. And every night around midnight, Elijah the prophet would come and share with them the mystical interpretation of the Bible. You see, Kabbalah is not a separate book by itself. It couldn't stand by itself. It is the mystical interpretation of the Torah, of the Bible. When God came to Mount Sinai, if you remember, you were there, and he wanted to share with us, in addition to the commandments, the mystical interpretation as well. But we were not ready to receive it. So it is held in heaven until this rabbi came and Elijah the prophet shared with them. And ever since then, in every generation, there were some individuals, usually hidden. They waited for the disciple to appear, and then the master appeared and was given over from master to disciple. There were never classes under Kabbalah, never before. The so-called scientific interpretation is, it was not written in the Holy Land at all, but rather in Spain, by a man called Rabbi Moses de Leon, who wanted to make some money with writing a book. And since he was not famous, but he was a genius, he was able to put himself to regress to that first century when Shimon Bar Yochai lived, and wrote the Zohar as he lived in that century. Write a book, isn't it? But here and there he made some mistakes. And they found out it could not have been written in the second. So this is the brief history. Personally, I don't care whether it was written then or later. I'm glad it's here. And we get the benefits of it. What about a definition? The word, of course, is Hebrew. It simply means to receive. If you ever go to Israel, and if you stay in one of the expensive hotels, in the lobby you will see a sign, Kabbalah. Do you think they're teaching the Kabbalah there? They want your money. But Kabbalah simply means reception. Reception. Receptionist. So the Kabbalah means God is sending, God is the host, as we are born, and receives us and says, listen, my children, everything you need and everything you would really want, it's there. But you must be ready to receive it. If you read the books, you'll find many other interpretations, and they're all valid. I never quarrel with anybody. Everybody is right. And sometimes I'm right too. My simple definition is Kabbalah is balance. There's this constant war going on between the mind, which sometimes represents the ego, between the body that's constantly asking, do something for me, and the soul, the shyest of them all. You can live all through your life and never even realize that you have an neshama, a soul. The mind is something else. Let me ask you a question. If the time would come that you can transplant minds, which mind do you think will be more expensive, Einstein's or mine? Huh? Mine, because mine is hardly used. So we can go on in life. You see, the body is a very aggressive thing. If you don't feed the body simply says, I'm not even getting up. As a matter of fact, I'll simply disappear. I'll die on you. But the mind, you can have the so-called mind for all your life, it didn't bother you at all. And so it is with the soul. So, therefore, the simple definition is to create that balance. Respond to the body, of course. Be healthy, eat the right food, live in beautiful places. If you can afford it, have your Rolls Royce if you like it. But, so the mind has needs too. And the soul is crying out. This is the way you can check your spirituality, by listening to the cry, to the agony, to the call of the soul and saying, you haven't done anything for me yet today. How about it? So that is my definition of Kabbalah. Let me share with you now briefly what I call the 8 basic teachings of Kabbalah. Kabbalah has noetic qualities: insight, knowledge, intuition, and revelation. Kabbalah is universal wisdom. It teaches that the universe is not dead matter. It is a living presence. Life is eternal, and that's why the Kabbalists always believed in reincarnation. Kabbalah teaches that the mystical mode of knowing is characteristically paradoxical. Kabbalah teaches that the goal of life is to unite the divided soul, to make peace between the Yetzer HaTov and the Yetzer Hara, between the good and the bad. And in the tree of life, if you remember, to the right is called, by the hands is Chesed, compassion, and the left side is called Din, the judgmental one, the angry one. And these are the conflicts, until finally the heart speaks and brings peace between the two fighting forces, the divided of the soul. Kabbalah teaches that the soul has 5 compartments. Let me mention them in the Hebrew first. Nefesh, the lowest part. Ruach, a little higher, spirit. Neshama, the soul. Chaya, the one which wants to be alive and looking for life. And finally, Yochida, when we reach the point where we become one with God after many, many, many reincarnations. And so it is with the human being, who is also has these 5 possible developments. In the Bible, he's first called Adam. Do you people read the Bible? Of course you do. Adam. What does Adam mean? Earth. Nothing. Until finally God puts spirit in that piece of clay, and now he becomes Ish, a man, but a selfish man. He's only concerned about himself. The rest doesn't interest him at all, until finally God gives him a wife. I wonder if I should share this with you. You know, Adam never complained. He was quite happy by himself. It was, according to the Bible, it was God who said, it's not good for a man to be alone. So he gave him his wife. So now he's already a little higher. He's concerned about his wife and his children, and maybe about his family. But it's still selfish. My people. The next step would be Ish Olam, where he reaches out and realizes there are other people. There are people on the 4 corners of the world. Black and white, Jews and Gentiles, Hindus and Muslims, always. And he's concerned now about the whole world. The 5th one, however, is the spiritual road, called Ish Elohim, the God-man, who is concerned about the fact that God himself is in exile. Has it ever occurred to us to wonder how God is doing? How he is managing? No, we are not concerned about it. Kabbalah teaches that there are two kinds of questions: good questions and bad questions. A bad question is one to which there is no answer. For example, the first line in the Bible reads, "In the beginning, God created heaven and earth." Suppose you stop and say, "Come on, don't go any further. I want to know who created God." That's a bad question. So God, by definition, is incomprehensible, unknowable. There's no way we can know God. Our very mind is limited, as holy as we can become. We can't know God. We can know a part of God, but not all of God. That's a bad question. A good question is to accept as a hypothesis, I think it's scientific, that there is a God. Now my question is, I wonder what God wants of me. That's a good question. And a good question has many answers, not one. Therefore, I recall this great Hasidic rabbi who had no children. And you know, in the Hasidic tradition, it's like in the monarchy, that the sons automatically followed the father and become the rabbi. He had no children. So he knew that after he passes on, his followers are going to look for another master. He said to them, when you go and visit this new master to be, ask him only one question. Tell me, Rabbi, is your way, your approach to God, to spirituality, the only way? If he says, yes, my child, then run. He should not be your master. Because a good question has many answers. And we have to find those answers ourselves. Take the question of Yahweh. Let me write it down in the Hebrew. These are the 4 letters called God's mystical name. This is the Yod, the He, the Vav, and the He. Nobody knows in the tradition how to pronounce this name. Only the high priest knew it, and when the temple in Jerusalem was still in existence before the destruction, and he pronounced it only once a year on Yom Kippur. Here is a test. How many of you know what Yom Kippur is? All right. It's a day of atonement that we celebrate once a year, usually around September, after the summer, when we committed so many sins during the summer months. So we have a day of atonement. And that is the day when we fast all day long, we pray, mea culpa, and the high priest would collect the sins of Israel and take it into the Holy of Holies, but even he would enter only once a year and present them to God, and he will sit there and wait sometimes for hours until he will hear the response, which is sulachti, forgiven. And then he would come out with the good news. He would run and he would say, God said, sulachti, all is forgiven. We would prostrate ourselves, and he would pronounce that 4-letter word, the Yod He, Vav He, and he would get some water. Thank you. And we would hear it and get the benefits of it and forget it. So we never know how to pronounce it. We substitute. When the Christian read the Bible, he will pronounce it the way the letters suggest. Yahweh. These are the sounds of the letters. We substitute a word called Adonai. Can you say the word with me? Adonai. Brahmin, would you call it? Adonai, a substitute. We never pronounce this word. But we do know, and every mystic ever since then was trying to find out the real pronunciation, believing if we do find it, we will hasten the coming of the Messiah. I tried all these years to find out. And guess what? I couldn't find it. But I did find something which I think is interesting, that everybody knows, for example, the numerical value of letters. In the Hebrew, every letter is also a number. And everybody who knows some Hebrew knows that the number for this letter is 10, the number for this letter is 5, the number for this letter is 6, the number for this letter is 5. Can you all see this? If not, see me later on. I'll explain it to you in person. Now, if you add up these 4 letters, 5 plus 6 plus 5 plus 10, what do we get? 20, what? 26. And 26 again, if we add up, we get what? 8. Number 8. So I'm suggesting that as God is telling me to create the number 8 with my life by recognizing the upper and the lower world, representing by these 2 circles, and emphasize the oneness of it through the Kabbalah, which is the Hebrew word for meditation, and then to combine the 2 worlds like this, and we finally get what? We get the number 8, which is also infinity. I'm glad to tell you there's a nice car now by that name. Every mystic should have an infinity. The other meaning, the mystical meaning of these 4 letters is also the 4 keys which we can open up some of the 50 doors of wisdom. According to tradition, even Moses, the great prophet, only knew 49 of them. Nobody has reached yet the 50th. But using these 4 keys, we might be able to. And here again, every letter represents a concept, a mystical concept. And briefly, the first letter stands for Yira. To be a Kabbalist, you have to be the kind that stands in awe of life. Whenever you see, even if you've seen it yesterday 100 times, but you see again a tree, a flower, a grass, or a human being, a person, you stand in awe, because what do you see? God manifests in a thing or in a person or an animal, because nothing can exist without God's presence. So Yira is the first key. The second key is Hineni. To be able to say, like Abraham of old and later on Moses, when according to the Bible they were addressed by God, Abraham, Abraham, Moshe, Moshe. And they said, Hineni. Not here I am. I'm ready. Just tell me what to do. And whatever it is. We know later on when God said to Abraham, and became real good friends now, and he said to him, so the first he said to him, now, I want you to leave your home. I want you to leave your country and go. Where? I'll tell you. Just go. That's commitment. That's believing. That's faith. That's betachon, trust in God. The next one is called the vav, called ve'ahavta, the ability to embrace and to love. All countries have such a terrible difficulty how to get rid of enemies. And ever so often we go to war and we kill a few million people. Not realizing the only way of getting rid of our enemy is to make him into friends. Isn't that beautiful? It wouldn't cost millions of dollars, I assure you. Martin Buber, the great theologian, philosopher, said, he knows only of two kinds of people. Here he said, to the right are all the people who are already my friends. And here are the people who are waiting to become my friends. Isn't that simple? Isn't that simple? Unconditional love. And the last letter, the other He, stands for hitlahava, for excitement. For those of you who are married or are going to be married, remember this. There can be no love without excitement. If you ever want to check yourself whether you love each other, don't spend money, go to the therapist. Just simply find out if you're excited about each other. That's it. There can be no love without excitement. There are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. And there are many, many, many. We can spend again a whole day in interpreting them all. But simply since we are told in the Kabbalistic tradition that each one of us receives at birth two pillars. The pillar of simcha, the pillar of joy, and the pillar of ahava, the pillar of love. And we are called upon during our lifetime to put in place rungs with which we can climb to reach the highest level of being, perhaps even the throne of God. So we are called upon at least to put in these 22 rungs, and each letter stands for a concept. If we would ever have a seminar, we would be able to name each one of those letters. For example, the first letter, the aleph, stands for ahava, the rung of love. That's where you begin. The second one, the bet, stands for beracha. You begin with the idea that life is beautiful under all conditions. And you accept it the way it is. I love this. I believe it was a French philosopher, which is a great help to me, when he said, if it can't be the way I want it the way it is. And you enjoy it. In other words, give yourself the empowerment. The empowerment. So these are the trends. That's one interpretation. The other interpretation is if you add up 22, 2 and 2, we get what? 4. 4 are that Kabbalah would teach, the 4 levels of growth. And very simply would be the physical level. Physical level simply suggests be careful of your body, which is the holy container of the mind and the soul. In Judaism it implies kosher. You are by definition kosher because most of you are vegetarians, right? So to be very careful and to say a little prayer every time you begin to eat, to express the love for the Creator who created all of this. So the physical level, the body. The second level would be the emotional level. The time comes when you give up your childish behavior. and you clean your own room, and you take on responsibilities to grow emotionally. The next one would be the intellectual level, and in Judaism this is very, very important. Learning. For example, I remember even my own family, we had 3 girls in our family, and when they become old enough to get married, and usually, almost like in India, it's the parents who arranged the marriage. My first marriage was arranged that way. I never met her before except on the day of the wedding. And personally, I have news for you, that's a good way of doing it. Provided if they come from the same background, the same tradition, so we actually know each other, we just never met. Because what happens in our so-called modern American way, we know each other for months, sometimes for years, we even live together, so we know all the good things about each other and very little about the bad things, because we're holding back. And finally it comes out after the wedding. Somebody once said, nobody ever divorces the wife he married. By the time the divorce comes, it's a different person. It's not a bad idea. So the first concern of my father was the young man. Is he a learned man? Whether he's rich, whether he has a car or a condo is not important. Is he a Talmid Chacham, a wise man and a learned man? And the fourth one would be the spiritual level. Again, in addition. All this, remember, these are all in addition. And this is very often the problem we have with spiritual people. I know it with some of my own students. They become so spiritual, so they neglect their body, they neglect their friends, they neglect their families, and they say, I'm with God. You know what God is saying to them? I don't need you here. Not that way. As a matter of fact, there's a beautiful midrashic story when God was ready to create us, Adam and Eve, he called together the angels. Would you know, Swamiji, when the angels were created? Presumably they were created before man, before Adam, and he called them together to share with them the good news and saying, tomorrow, it happened on a Thursday, tomorrow I'm going to create this creature who will have a mind, and he will be able to make decisions to do or not to do, to come or not to come. And the angel stood up at once. He says, don't do it. Do you know the problems you will have with them? And presumably God said, I know, but I'm bored with you. You're constantly praising me. I want to have some fun in life. So that God took a chance on us. That's what it is. So the idea is not taking spiritual and ignoring all the others. Spirituality should be in addition. First, be a mensch. A mensch is a Hebrew word, a person for all seasons, who is comfortable everywhere. Make a good living. Be educated. And then be also spiritual. And I added lately 2 more things. And the one is called the earth level, to realize that we are earthbound. Our problem here in life is in life. We are not ready to go up there yet. I want to share with you something. Do we have some time yet?
For 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, 10 minutes.
Afterwards, question and answer.
Huh? All right. Swamiji told you I just had my second Bar Mitzvah. which was about 3 weeks ago, and I overheard two angels. One angel who is, each one of us is a good and a bad angel, and they were discussing me. The bad angel said to the other angel, "Don't you think it's time to get him up here already?" And the other angel said, "Before his Bar Mitzvah?" Now, since then, I hear them again talking, and the other angel says, "All right, now the Bar Mitzvah happened. Do you think we should get him up?" And my angel says, "He just got Bar Mitzvah." So anyway, this is the earth level, and finally, I added the other level, which is the heavenly level. This is the goal, of course. But first we do this. Now, to make sure, at least, if you forget everything that has been said today, try to remember this one as I'm making up the holy connection. How many of you recognize this? This is in the English it's called the Star of David, which is a bad translation. In the Hebrew, it's called Magen David, the shield of David. David was a warrior, and when he went to the front, he had a shield in front of himself to protect his heart. So he or she who has these 6 attributes is automatically having a shield and protected in life. All right, now, just something about the 10 Sephirot, the 10 emanations, the tree of life. That would really acquire more than not a day but a week. But basically, the tree of life can also be expressed, there are 10 emanations, in one Hebrew letter, which I'll put a big one here, and this is called the 21st letter in the Hebrew alphabet. Does somebody here know what this letter is called?
Shin.
Huh?
Shin.
Not really. You know why not? Because it depends. If the dot is on this side, then it's a shin. And it stands for Shekhinah, the indwelling God. But if the dot would be on this side, it stands for an S for Satan, just the opposite. Did you know that? So it depends in the middle. I would like to demonstrate it. Would you like to come up here? I'm going to suggest that each one of us is the tree of life, and each one of us is this letter sheet. Can you face the audience and put up both hands? Real well. Can you see what I mean? Yes? Yes? Yes. The Hebrew letter. Now, it depends. If the dot would be on the right side, then this would be an SH sound, Shekhinah, positive. If the dot is on this side, it will be the opposite. It depends on the middle. If the mind is right thinking, as the Buddha would say it, if the mind is utilized to enrich God's kingdom here on earth, if the eyes see the glory of God, and if the heart feels compassion for the poor, for the sick, for the neglected, then indeed this becomes a shin. If not, this becomes an S. So the answer is, the question is not what is your sign? The question is, where is your dot? Now, briefly now, since we are limited in time, let me share with you what I call the 7 basic concepts of the Kabbalah. The first one is the sanctity of life. We were born to be, not to live, but to be alive. The difference is if you take the word alive, you see it? 4 letters. And again, in Kabbalistic terms, if you find a meaning for each letter, you will know the deeper meaning of the word. What does it mean to be alive? That you are A-L-I-V-E. Is that 5 letters? In New York, we spell it with 4. It's actually 5, right? It's to be an aware person, to be a loving person, to be an intuitive person, to be a victorious person over the 2 inclinations, and finally to be an exciting person. The psalmist said, Lo hametim hallelujah, the dead do not praise the Lord. So we have to be alive to praise God. So the sanctity of life. The second concept is the sanctity of work. Again, how does the Bible begin? With a honeymoon? The Bible begins, in the beginning God, what? Created. He began to work. Then he rested on the 7th day. So spirituality doesn't mean I don't have to work anymore, because I'm connected with God. God needs us here. As a matter of fact, the concept, the most beautiful, what I can say, beautiful concept in Kabbalah is that we are all shutfei Elohim. We are partners with God in the creation. And this is the first dialogue that took place, that famous Friday night when so-called Adam and Eve were created, when God said to them, from now on, I shall do nothing by myself, but you and I together will finish the creation. What a beautiful title. Put it on your business card. I'm the ambassador of the Lord. See how far you go with it. The sanctity of excitement that I already spoke earlier about, and again, if you put together, the Bible says, in the beginning God created heaven and earth, which is not true at all. He created the light. But heaven and earth, if you take the 2 first letters of Shamayim and Aretz and make it into one word, it spells Esh. The first thing he created is fire, excitement. To be excited about life. The next one is the excitement of the inner power to sanctify everything that exists. When Moses saw the burning bush, do you remember, in the wilderness? Moses, the shepherd boy, and God said to him, the place where you stand is holy. It wasn't. But it's meant to be the place where you stand is waiting to be sanctified by you. Only you can sanctify it. And this is the answer when people ask, and you'll probably ask me that question again, as always asked, where is God? Where was God when the Holocaust happened? Where is God when we watch what's happening in Bosnia? Or where is God right here in this country? There's still millions of people who are suffering and go to sleep hungry. Where is God? You know what God would answer? Where are you? Where are you? I'm counting on you. You are my hands. You are my feet. You are my mind. You are my soul here on earth. Where are you? And interesting, this is the very first question that Adam and Eve heard in the garden when they committed the so-called sin. When God said to them just one word, Ayeka, where are you? A spiritual person hears this constantly. Where are you? Where are you going? What are you doing? Why are you doing it? And why aren't you doing something else as well? Ayeka. The next concept would be, is the concept of choice. We have choices in life. Again, this we learn from the Bible when Moses said his farewell address, he said to the children of Israel and to all of us, he said, I've given you the curse, I've given you the blessing, meaning he spoke about curses if we do not obey the laws of nature or the laws of God. And he spoke about joy and peace. I spoke to you about life, and I spoke to you about death. And then, like any good father and good leader would say, he ended by saying, Uvacharta b'chaim, I beg of you, choose life and choose the blessing. And finally, the sanctity of wisdom. I differentiate three types of wisdom. Three types of wisdom. And they are called, you may call them the critical wisdom, compassionate wisdom, and divine wisdom. Critical wisdom, use with yourself. Be as critical as you want to. In addition, be kind too. But when it comes to the other, use compassionate wisdom. When it comes to God, if you want to understand the way of life, they use divine wisdom, which I explain only with one simple mantra. Hakol Baseder. All is in divine order. Can you say that with me? Hakol Baseder. All is in divine order. I don't understand. I don't even know why I'm here today. But I'm happy to be here. Finally, let me conclude now with a vision. I don't have time for the recurring dream. Maybe I'll do it later on in the afternoon. But this is a vision I had for many, many, many years, where again, it's based on the Bible. You remember, God worked 6 days. That was before the unions came into being. And he rested on the 7th day, and that's called the Sabbath, right? Shabbat, usually on the 7th day. 700 years later, Christendom became a religion, and they needed a day of rest. And they were embarrassed. They were all Jews to begin with. But they wanted to separate themselves. They said, we need another day of rest. And they had 6 days to choose from. You remember what they chose? Sunday, which is nearer to the Jewish Sabbath. Hundreds of years later, Islam became a religion. Now, they needed a day of rest. They had 5 days to choose from. What did they choose? Friday, which is nearer to the Jewish Sabbath. The reason I mention this religion, because officially, these are the religions that are officially accepted as religions. The others are called philosophies. So I'm suggesting to you that the Sabbath is actually 3 days. It starts Thursday night, and it goes till Sunday night. And this is the vision I had. What if we all go Thursday night and Friday and join our Muslim brothers in their services and show our oneness with them? What if in the Sabbath we would all come to the synagogues, and don't worry, there are enough seats available there. And we will all join the Jews on the Sabbath. And on Sunday we go to the churches and join the Christians. And at least once a year we come here, of course.
One day here.
One day here. So this is my vision, and I would like to conclude now with a meditation. If you close your eyes. If you close your eyes now and turn on the spiritual eyes and actually see it now, where we rid ourselves of all anxieties, frustrations, which created differences and hatred and prejudice in us. And we no longer look at each other asking the question, are you Hindu? Are you Muslim? Are you Jewish? Are you Christian? Are you an atheist? We no longer ask those questions. But we do recognize each other by saying, I know who you are. You are my brother. You are my sister, and I was waiting for you all these years. Come now, let's embrace each other. Like Jacob and Esau in the Bible, they finally embraced each other and kissed each other and loved each other. This is my vision, and this is my prayer. May the day come soon in our time, call it the Messianic age, where we finally use our sanity, use our God-given right to decide for God, for beauty, for peace, for joy, for shanti and shalom. Thank you, and God love you. Thank you.